California. The right and the media is making it seem like Los Angeles, California is currently on fire, and there are mass riots going on, and people are burning the shit out of cars and looting small businesses. And I'm not naive, and I'm not denying that that has occurred. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, since last Saturday, June 6th, June 7th, there have been protests about Trump's mass deportation policy. These have been mainly occurring in Los Angeles, and that is what caused all of this. And I'm not naive, there are some people looting. There's been a car was exploded practically. But to call this a flat out riot is dumb, and that's what this video is here to do. It's to dispel the propaganda and the lies that the right and the media in general is spewing about the ongoing Los Angeles protests, not riots. So it's important to contextualize exactly how this started. It started, as I said, as a recording last Saturday, which was last week. So federal officers came to Los Angeles and detained some migrants, right? I'm not aware if they were arrested and deported, but they were detained. This caused people to gather, and a minor protest started where they just started shouting at the ICE officers and harassing them, which, if you're going to protest, you can protest. There's nothing wrong with that. And then what added fuel onto the fire is it was either the same day or the next day other federal officers were seen in Los Angeles. However, they ended up being there for not a reason pertaining to illegal immigration. But just seeing them there, it stoked the fire. And more protesters showed up, and it just turned into an actual protest, an actual deportation protest. Naturally, the federal officers being there not to handle a protest and not being enough in numbers called backup. They called for the Los Angeles Police Department. That is all they called for. They called for the Los Angeles Police Department. And here is where we get to the first lie. Now, this isn't a crazy lie. It's not that big of a deal, but it is important to bring it up because it just shows definitive proof of the right's exaggerations. Because Donald Trump and other federal employees have been saying that it took the Los Angeles Police Department 2 hours to get to where the protest was occurring. It took them 55 minutes. So it did take them an hour, and that's because people were protesting and were in the way. The idea that the right has to exaggerate this just kind of shows the lengths they'll go to make people look bad. Eventually, LAPD got there. The mayor of Los Angeles put in a curfew, and the protests, which at that point were protests, they were a little violent with some people throwing stuff at the ICE officers and the LAPD, but it did end up being contained. And it's important to note throughout this entire timeline, the protest took place within a 3 to 4 block radius. That is a very small radius. It might even be 2 blocks. And there's people on the ground that live in Los Angeles and live in that specific area that say, largely, it's fine. I can go out on the street and go shopping.
Without getting too specific, I have firsthand knowledge of these protests, and without doxing myself, I live in very close to proximity to where they've been occurring, and I can tell you from personal firsthand experience, what you're seeing in the media is blown way the fuck out of proportion. This is all happening within like a 2-block area.
The Marines are not coming in to stop the peaceful protests. They're coming in to stop the looting and
They're coming in to intimidate protesters.
Sure, there was some minor outbursts up until that point, but it was nothing major. So it's important to note at this point, there was a curfew in place. LAPD started to get things under control. The protest was pretty peaceful. I mean, I can show clips. But then everything changed because Donald Trump brings in 2,000 California National Guard members. He takes control of the California National Guard from Gavin Newsom and brings them in to stop the protest. And it's very important because Donald Trump claims that he was asked to bring them in. That is not true. Gavin Newsom did not request this. The Los Angeles mayor did not request this. 2 police chiefs also denied ever asking for the National Guard because they had it under control. All this ended up doing, combined with Donald Trump also bringing in 700 United States Marines, was add fuel to the fire. It increased tensions and it escalated things. And then that's when we got LAPD officers shooting rubber bullets at innocent reporters just reporting on the protest. That's when things started to get a little crazier. That's when people started throwing shit. And I'm not here to defend people torching cars and looting businesses, because that has happened. But it's important to note that the majority of these protesters are protesting peacefully, unlike what Karoline Leavitt is saying.
I think two things can be important at the same time, and the president, as I just answered, supports the right of Americans to peacefully protest. He supports the First Amendment, but that is not the majority of the behavior that we have seen taking place in Los Angeles. We have seen mobs of violent rioters and agitators assaulting law enforcement officers.
And if you're confused on how bringing in the National Guard and the U.S. Marines escalates tensions, let me explain it to you. If this protest is happening within 2 blocks, 3 blocks, and LAPD and the federal officers that were already there had it under control, and nobody called backup for the National Guard to come in, then that means Donald Trump went overkill, unnecessarily called in the National Guard, stepped into business that he didn't belong in. So what reason would he have to do that other than to show off his power and his control? He doesn't have any other reason. That's why he did it, to show his power, to flex his control, to silence protesters. He didn't care if they were rioting or not. What this does is escalate tensions, obviously, because now protesters who were protesting peacefully are more on edge, because why the hell did you bring in 2,000 National Guard soldiers and U.S. Marines? Now they're going to be on edge. Now they're going to be more nervous. I mean, that's going to feel like a threat. The Los Angeles Police Department are also going to have tensions with the National Guard. Now they're angry. Now they have to communicate with the National Guard. Now they have to work with them. And now they have to deal with the protesters who are even more angry from this basically threat from Donald Trump. And that's how you get stuff like LAPD officers, like I said, shooting rubber bullets at innocent reporters that are just recording them. If nobody's asking for the National Guard, the protests are under control, and they're within 3 to 4 blocks. Why are you bringing in 2,000 troops? To show off your power? To show the control you have? To silence protesters, regardless of whether they're protesting violently or peacefully? Which the majority were peaceful, the vast majority were peaceful. And then you bring in soldiers. They escalate things. What do you expect to fucking happen? People are angry, and they have every right to be angry. Donald Trump just continues to show proof of him being one of the worst presidents we've ever had. This dude brings in the National Guard, takes control of the California National Guard to flex his power and show his might, and silence protesters. Lies about them asking for him to do this. He lies about how long it took the LAPD to respond. He has people lying about how many protesters are acting peacefully and how many are rioting. He has the media portraying this as if Los Angeles is on fire, when it's a 2-block, 3-block area. The rest of LA looks like LA normally does on a Friday afternoon. The idea that there's a crazy riot going on and it just shows how violent the left is, and they need to be shut down, and all these troops need to be in the area, is so ridiculously fucking idiotic. If you are on the right and you are pushing this narrative, I don't care if you even agree with the protests. You can disagree with the protests, whatever. If you think this protest is justification enough for Donald Trump to take control of state National Guardsmen and send them in and escalate tensions, you're just being bad faith and completely disingenuous, which I'm not surprised, because that's what a majority of the right does online. So yeah, if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. I will have more content out soon, and I will see you all in the next video.